Om Brahmanandam Paramasukadam Kevalam Jnanamurtim Dvandvatitam Gaganasadarsham Tattvamasya Laksham Ekam Nityam Vimalamachalam Sarvadi Sakshibhutam Bhavatitam Trigunarahitam Sadgurum. Krishna is trying to define a yogi as not one who wears just a cowpeen. You can't go to work in World Bank with a cowpeen, right? Or who is so lazy that he thinks it's better to meditate. Some people mistake laziness with spirituality. I know many people who sleep for hours and think that they are in samadhi. You know, so he says, a yogi or a renouncer, which means a sannyasin, one who is supposed to have left everything. Krishna says it's not that kind of person who can be called a yogi or a sannyasi. It's the person who performs his duties, does his work, and not gets too caught up by the results. Not that when you do work, we had this discussion that day in Long Island. We need to do work, we need to have a goal. It's not as if we don't have a goal. Without a goal, you can't work. Even meditation is a goal. It has a goal. So even meditation or kriya is a work. It's also work. There is no escape by saying I don't want. So this is where we mistake tamoguna with sattva guna according to the Sankhya philosophy. The terminology of Sankhya, one of the most ancient philosophy of the great Kapila, they use a term called the three gunas. Three gunas meaning tamoguna, rajoguna and sattva. All human beings are a mixture of these three in varying proportions. Now tamoguna means inertia, not wanting to do anything, which is often mistaken for sattva, which is complete quietness, which has come as a spiritual attainment, after which one may or may not do any work. It's not lethargy. In fact, a yogi's mind is not a sleeping mind, it's an ever active, alert but tranquil mind. So this is what he's trying to clarify. Don't think that because you don't want to do anything, you have become a great spiritual being. A spiritual being is one who keeps doing his work. If you don't do your work, you know what happens. A lazy brain is a devil's workshop anyway. Keep doing your work, but not worrying too much about the results. I mean, you have to have a goal, but if it doesn't work, move forward. Don't hang on to that. Don't be obsessed by the failure. All people who have succeeded are those who have failed and stuck to it and said, we'll do it somehow. You know that. Edison invented the electric bulb 100 times, tried to, lost. 101st time he succeeded. It applies all the more to spiritual practice and also to your worldly life. So this is called sannyas, not giving up and running away. You can't run away anywhere. Wherever you go, you take your mind. And if you think by taking sannyas and going and joining an ashram full time, you're going to find peace, try it out. In a small group where there are very few people, the politics become stronger. All the attitudes which you had lying underground come up. And you know what happens, there is always this. Well, I know an ashram where people, because of their divinity, call each other only Om. They don't want to use the name because then Om is equal. It is very funny because Om has different tones. When they like you, it is Om, how are you? And then Om, come here. Makes no difference. So Krishna says all this is not, these are escape modes. Stay where you are, do your work, okay, and practice. And when he says a yogi is not one who keeps no fire, it means in the ancient times, in the olden days, all householders had a fire in their house for homa. It's called the fire. And it's a ritual, it means lighting the fire for offering thanks to the Creator. It also means the fire of the desire for spiritual fulfillment, which is inside. In the Mundaka Upanishad, in the Katha Upanishad, it's called the Nachiketa fire, the desire for spiritual fulfillment. Fire is such an important part. Agni is the main deity in the Rig Veda, fire. So, it's not as if you don't keep your fire on and it's all gone off. The fire should be there. Without that fire, you cannot move forward. And also, people who took sannyas usually stopped doing all the fire rituals and went away. He said that's not a solution. Do your duty, do your work, keep the fire lit and move forward. The fire of desire, right? Desire, fulfillment, all this is defined by the symbol of fire. Even ordinary worldly fulfillment. You have an old girl you loved, what do you call her? Old flame. You don't say old water, right? Fire is a symbol of desire, inner, outer, gross, subtle, whatever. So he says, don't put off the fire. And also, don't avoid work, because you cannot avoid it anyway. Even when you are not working, when you are sleeping, the body is working hard. Heart doesn't, one day the heart says, I am not working, finished. We are down, we are off. And one day the brain stops working or the digestive system starts working, we are dead. So even you are not working, but it's working because it is a nature to work. So if you artificially stop working, other thoughts will come into your mind which will make you do something which may not be constructive. So do your work. So Krishna is here totally redefining the concept of sannyas and the yogi. Right. Then he says one more definition for yoga. Yam sannyasam iti prahur yogam tam vidhi Pandava. Oh Pandava, listen to this. Nahi asamyasta sankalpa yogi bhavati kaschana. Oh son of Pandu, what is called sannyasa or renunciation, know that to be identical with yoga. So this is clear that here yoga is not defined as standing on your head and waving your legs up in the air. Yoga is an attitude of life. I mean, yoga asanas are good, I am not saying they are bad. I do every day, so that's fine. But yoga is much more than that. It's not just gymnastics. So, O son of Pandu, what is called sannyasa or renunciation, know that to be the same as yoga, which is the discipline of selfless action. The more selfless an action becomes, the more spiritual one moves forward. Which is why the great Swami Vivekananda, original, I am saying original because nowadays there are avatars of all great people everywhere, so-called. Original Swami Vivekananda said, when he established the Ramakrishna mission, he said, you guys cannot meditate 24 hours. Okay? So what do? You have left your home, you have come here. Use your energy for active, useful work. What kind of work? Work for others, not for yourself. Because selflessness, if it doesn't come about, if you are spiritual, then you are going somewhere wrong. It cannot be. Because you are actually moving out and broadening your horizons. You are not sticking to one small little point and say everything is for me. See that? Even when you say I want to attain moksha, the idea should be if I get it, I can help so many people. So he says, a yogi or a sannyasi is the one who works selflessly. In fact, Swami Vivekananda said, looking after those who are less privileged, he called it Daridrya Narayana Seva. He said, they are poor Narayanas. You do seva to them and your mind will move towards the spiritual. There is, of course, a vested interest there, which is you will become spiritual. But then all human beings are selfish. Selfish this way or selfish that way. So look at the better side of selfishness, to find the big self. Okay, so he says, because if you simply say I am a yogi because I am practicing something and not being able to perform selfless works, and then what happens? The mind is subtly hankering after many things, even though outwardly you have given up. Mind is subtly hankering after so many things. You may change your robe, you may shave your head, but you can't change that. So unless that happens, you cannot be a yogi. Which means unless you know how to keep your mind quiet and tranquil, not allowing it to run after things of the object, you cannot be a yogi. So please remember all this. It's not just practicing Kriya. Okay? The background, the foundation has to be laid. I'll leave it there. Then there is a beautiful statement which says, one should uplift one's lower self by the higher self. One should not depress or downgrade oneself, for the self is both friend and foe. All that has been said before doesn't mean that you should start thinking, oh, I am a horrible fellow. When the thought occurs saying, I am a horrible fellow, think, but I am also a spark of the divine. So, yoga, the yogic state of mind is not that which keeps depreciating yourself all the time, deprecating yourself, saying I am low, I am this, I am that. In fact, the yogic state of mind is when it says, actually in true essence I am that, which is the supreme reality. We started with Purna Mada, so I am Purna, that completeness. This idea, if it is there, then you escape from what is called depression. Otherwise, you feel, oh, somebody is a great yogi, oh, he is doing, I am a miserable fellow. Wrong thought if you want to be a yogi. Say that I am starting off, I don't know, but I will probably move there, but because deep down in my inner core is the spark of the divine. If my antaryami is divine, then I am divine. And therefore, he says, raise your mind with the mind, which means keep giving positive ideas to the mind. Don't give negative ideas to the mind. I see people come to me usually and say, oh, everything is over. I said, what do you mean? I've lost my job. I said, just wait a minute. At this point when you're talking to me, how many thousands of people have lost their job? When you look at that, you don't feel it's only something that you are being victimized for. It's human nature. Sometimes things are okay, sometimes they're down. So if you can hold on to that and keep your mind tranquil, then, says Krishna, then you can be called a yogi. Also, if you are practicing in spiritual practice, and if you are practicing Kriya and meditation for some time, with the hope of touching that which is the supreme, which is inside you and nowhere else to search for, if you are doing that, then certain qualities have to develop in us. These qualities are as important as the practice. And what are these qualities? Especially noteworthy, says Krishna, in excellence as a yogi, is one who is even-minded to friend and foe. The yogi doesn't have a foe. Friend and foe, that is Surana Mitra, Udasina, Madhyastha, Tveshta Bandhusu. Also, on comrade and stranger, on the neutral or the ally, on the good and even on the bad. That means for a yogi, there is nobody bad. All are good. When you say all are good doesn't mean I should marry everybody. All are, which means instead of seeing the bad side of people, can we look at the good side? Possible. Even the worst person will have something nice inside. Valmiki was a dacoit. And you have the Ramayana. Once upon a time. Last year I had, 3 years ago I went to Rome during the Padayatra. I took off for 7 days. And I got an appointment to meet the Pope, the present Pope. So I went and met him and we had a chat about it, in spite of his busy schedule. And mine too. But his schedule may be busier than mine. One thing I liked, in the course of his talk to the public, he said, every saint has a past and every sinner has a future. Many saints were not born saints, they worked their way up there. So, when you think of that, then you know that there is a spark of the divine and the capacity to reach there in everyone. Okay, that person may not see it, so if you see it, I'm not saying if somebody is slapping you, you should say, okay, turn that, doesn't work. Defend yourself, but have no hatred. You might have to hiss sometimes. You don't have to bite. There's a very famous story of Sri Ramakrishna Paramahamsa. Said, apparently in a village, a brahmachari, a brahmachari, one who is practicing and who is following the rules so that he can become free. It's quite a contradiction, following the rules to become free. Anyway, so the funny thing is when the freedom is touched, you realize that there are no rules. So he was walking along the village when he came near a street, somebody said to him, hey, don't go on that street. He said, why? Because they said, oh, there's a very dangerous snake living there, a cobra. It might kill you. So the brahmachari said, well, I know how to stop the cobra. I know some incantations I can work. Don't try it, please. On a cobra, especially when its hood is up. Don't go there and do this. So he said, I know how to control it. So he went to the snake and the snake came out and he said, oh, hello. He said, why are you trying to bite me? I didn't do anything to you. So the snake stopped itself and he said, okay, so who are you? He said, I'm a yogi. Okay. Can I also learn yoga? Your face looks brilliant. So what is the secret? Can I also learn yoga? He said, you can start learning. So from biting, he forgot about that. There was a dialogue. There's a time when snakes speak. Okay. So, and then he started advising him what to do. He gave him a mantra and he said, chant this mantra. And when I come back next year, then we'll do what is next. So there's one condition. What's the condition? The one moment you take this mantra, you should stop biting. You cannot bite. Snake was very sincere spiritual aspirant, so he even agreed to that. And then a year passed and the brahmachari came back. There was everybody playing on the street. Children were playing marbles, no sign of the snake. So he asked the kids, hey, what happened to that cobra out there? He said, oh, that fellow, well, he's inside the hole. What happened to him? Oh, do you know that? He stopped biting. So So we broke his spine and he's lying inside. So the brahmachari went and called him by name, and the snake said, "Yes, Guruji, I am lying here inside the pit." "Okay," he said. "What happened?" He said, "Well, I have been practicing what you said very sincerely. I feel very nice, but my spine is broken." "Why?" "Too much pain." "Why? What happened?" "Well, you said not to bite, so I stopped biting." So the brahmachari took the snake out and did whatever was necessary. I think he was also an orthopedist and got the spine in order. And then he said, "Hey man, what kind of an idiot are you? I told you not to bite, right?" "Yes." "Did I tell you not to hiss?" "See? So in this world, sometimes you need to hiss, but don't bite." The only problem is, very soon people realize that this fellow doesn't bite. So they take advantage of that. Doesn't matter. So a yogi is like that. He has no enemies. Why are you so serious? What's your name? Huh?
Sri Hari.
Sri Hari, what's so serious? Let go. Rejoice. What a name, Sri Hari. Okay, now after saying all this, he goes down to the process of meditation. Interesting. So what does he say? "So let a yogi constantly practice spiritual communion." "Yogi yunjita satatam atmanam rahasistita ekaki yata chittatma nirashir aparigraha." Sometimes I'm tempted to chant the Sanskrit because it's nice. It's kind of also a little hypnotic, so it'll keep you attentive. So let a yogi constantly practice spiritual communion, residing alone in a solitary spot or once in a while in a place like this, desireless, without many possessions, and disciplined in body and mind. If you come here and if you keep too many possessions, your mind will be in the room. Who's taking it away? So leave everything when you come to places of retreat. Bring what is essential. Switch off your cell phone and throw it, not throw it, put it into the cupboard and stay clear. So he says a yogi should therefore practice communion, residing in a solitary spot. Now, nowadays it's not practical to do that all the time. So at least some time, keep some time for doing that. You'll do that if you know how serious a matter it is, right? And disciplined in body and mind. Okay. And then there is a description which is very interesting, quite practical but really very useful. At a clean spot, Sochao Deshe, in a very clean spot, which is neither too high nor too low. If it's too high, it's not a good idea to meditate in a tree house. In a trance you might fall down. So sit neither in a clean place. Clean is very important. Why? Because then there will be scorpions, there will be many things in a solitary place. So make sure that you're okay. So sit in a clean place. And then, which is neither high nor too low. And then the seat should be made of kusha grass. You don't have kusha grass available here. So you can have a rug. A woolen rug is more than enough. But this is Krishna's description. Kusha grass laid on it and spread over with a skin and a cloth. So Krishna didn't have much against having an animal skin spread for meditation. Because in those days, you'll see the Shankaracharyas of all the four mathas, they're supposed to be totally non-violent, but when they sit ceremonially, there's a tiger skin on which with the mouth open in front. I often wonder if it's to scare people, but it's there. So, in those days, there were no synthetic fabrics available like we have now. So the deer skin, the tiger skin, these were the things which were used to insulate yourself. So with kushagra spread over with a skin and a cloth on top. Now please, after going back from here, don't say, next year you come. Did you start meditating? No, I didn't. Why? I couldn't get a tiger skin. So you can use a rug. Firmly seated on it, the yogi should practice spiritual communion. How? With his mind concentrated and with the working of the imaginative faculty and the senses under control. And the imaginative faculty is double-edged, can be useful, can also be detrimental to meditation. It's useful like anything you want to make, you want to do, you need to create an image and do it. In meditation, it helps if you are a visual kind of person to imagine the centers, the chakra, the lotuses, the devis, the deities and so on. If you are an imaginative visual person, but otherwise it's not required. However, if the imagination runs riot, then you are getting into trouble. So keep your imagination. You know how the mind works? It's very fast. It's linked. You start with one thought which looks so innocuous in the beginning, and then within minutes you are somewhere else. So what I am trying to say, cut it off, cut that link and stay without, you can imagine when you come out of meditation as much as you want. Nobody is bothered. When you sit down, cut everything out. Don't even imagine me. Okay? Just sit quiet. Well, if you imagine me, if you are able to cut out other thoughts, it's okay. But then I have trouble. So sit down, quieten your mind, cut down on your imagination. And keep your senses under control. Like you sit down to meditate, please don't sit near the kitchen. Because the moment they put the tadka, you will get sense of smell. And noise, when you ring the bell all the time, your sense organs are listening to that. And fragrance, So if you have gone to temples or if you like ashrams, if you have smelt the fragrance of a certain sandalwood agarbatti, light it. Because then your imagination is positive here. Your senses are working positively. Right? So that's the thing, to control the sensory organs and the imaginative faculty, and sit down quietly on a comfortable place, neither too high nor too low, and so on and so on. Then, this is the description in the Gita of this. It's interesting. Hold the body, head and neck erect. Samam kaya shirogrivam dharayanna chalam stira. You hold the body with the neck and head erect, motionless, firm, gazing at the tip of, now there are various ways of doing, tip of the nose, middle of the eyebrows. In some places it is bhru madhya, somewhere here is, says tip of the nasigra, on the tip of the nose. And not roundabout, which means you have sat down in a wonderful asana. Everything is erect, but what are you doing? No. Sit, fix your attention in one place. Here, it could be here. And then steady yourself, restrained in mind, and established in the vow of not being disturbed by external forces. Brahmacharya, people mistake Brahmacharya to be absolute celibacy. Brahmacharya means any activity that takes you towards the Brahman. Charya is Brahmacharya, which includes many things, not only that. The problem is because we get obsessed too much with one thing, positive or negative, and we are stuck. If you can also think of other things, then it won't be such a big compulsion. So, then he should sit in spiritual communion with the self, looking upon the higher self as the highest and most precious end. With the mind restrained from going outward to objects and always uniting it with the Supreme in spiritual communion, the yogi attains peace, which is supreme salvation and enduring establishment in my state, says Krishna. He is holding the yogi equal to him by saying, when a person sits like that with the mind steadfast, restrained from going outside, in that communion his mind becomes peaceful and he attains to peace, which is supreme salvation. Why supreme salvation? Because he discovers that the happiness and the completeness and the peace and everything which he was looking for in the outside world has been found inside. That's freeing you from many things. That's called salvation. When he does that, he attains my state, says Krishna. It means he's equivalent to me, such an yogi. When he says, na atyasnatastu yogasti na chaikantam manasnatha, which means na atiswapnashilasya jagrato nevacha Arjuna. Which means, oh Arjuna, success in yoga is not for those who eat too much, nor for those who eat too little. It is not also for those who are given to too much sleeping, and not for those who keep awake all night. Which means the key is moderation. You should eat, but don't eat too much. But don't starve yourself. If you starve yourself, there is no energy to do anything, including meditate. And sleep is necessary, but don't keep sleeping all the time. Wake up. To wake up is essential, but don't keep awake the whole night. At least for a practitioner of yoga, in the beginning, all these rules help a lot. Because the key is moderation. Neither too much, nor too little. And also, he says, for one who is temperate in food and recreation, also recreation. Nobody is telling you not to have recreation. Watch your TV. Yuktahara viharasya yukta chetasya karmasu yukta swapnavabodhasya yoga bhavati dukkha. That yoga brings about the cessation of all sorrow. Dukkha. What yoga? By one who is regulated in sleep and waking, who is temperate in food and recreation. You can watch TV, but don't watch all night. There were no TVs there. I'm just saying. Who is, thank God, who is detached, but then without YouTube, people wouldn't have known that I existed, for instance. But don't keep looking at YouTube all the time. Then you will become an iTube after some time. So, self-restrained in work, who is regulated in sleep and in vigil, yoga brings about the cessation of all dukkha for such a person. Then he says, the flame of a lamp sheltered from the wind does not flicker. Yatha deepo nivatasto ingadesi opamanas. That is, when the flame is there without any wind, protected from the wind, does not flicker. This is the comparison used to describe a yogi's mind that is well under control and united with the Supreme. How do you think of a flame without wind? It's interesting. After Arjuna says, this is all rubbish, I can't do it. So he didn't say rubbish actually, but now, The state in which the mind, chitta, with its movements restrained by the practice of yoga, finds rest, in which is experienced the joy of the spirit, born of the higher mind, intuiting the spirit, in which the yogi experiences that endless bliss which is beyond the ken of the sense organs, but is intuited by the purified mind, wherein established one does not waver from the truth. We usually tell lies to escape situations. Yogi has no situations. Why? Because he has found what he looked for. He doesn't have to tell. Veer away from the truth. We can call a spade, but gently. Having obtained which no other gain is considered as greater, having obtained which no other gain is considered as greater, remaining in which one is not shaken even by the heaviest of afflictions, know that severance of connection with pain is what is called yoga. It has to be practiced tirelessly with determination. Please note this. So, nischayena yogattavyo yoga nirvana chetasa. That nirvana can be attained only if you practice regularly with complete diligence. Can't practice one day and then do another day and expect something spontaneous going to happen. I've seen many spontaneity people. Nothing happens finally. You have to work. From whatever reason, this wavering mind and fickle mind wanders away, it should be curbed and brought to abide in the self. And supreme bliss wells up. Prashanta manasam. Supreme happiness and bliss. Prashanta and prasad are the same. When you go to a temple, when you come out, you're given prasad. Usually sweet. Dangerous for diabetics, but usually sweet. And the other word for prasadam in Sanskrit is ananda. Supreme bliss. So this is a symbol of that. So, supreme bliss wells up in the yogi who is tranquil in mind, whose passions are subdued, who is free from impurities, and who is in the state of the Brahman. Thus, engaged in making the mind steadfast, having all the impurities of the mind rubbed out, the yogi easily experiences the intense bliss of the Brahman. Now comes a very important thing. Sarva bhutastam atmanam sarva bhutani cha atmani ikshate yoga yuktatma sarvatra samadarshana. You get what it's trying to say? Somewhere, little bit. If you know any Indian language, it's not so difficult. Malayalam, Tamil, not so much Tamil, Malayalam, Gujarati, Hindi, Bengali, many words. They're all based on Sanskrit. Even Tamil is based on Sanskrit. Those who say it is not based on Sanskrit, their name itself is Sanskrit, Karunanidhi. Both words are Sanskrit. Anyway, it's gone. So, what do you think? So, now this is important, very important. The person of spiritual insight, established in same-sightedness, tranquil, seeing the self in all, sees the self as residing in all beings, and all beings residing in the self. What they are trying to do, he can't discriminate. I mean, he cannot, he will not. Rather. He who sees the divine in all beings, and all beings in the divine, how can I ever be lost to them? Lost. How can I ever be lost to him? Suppose you see the divine everywhere, in all beings, then how will the divine get lost? It can't. When I see somebody, so here's another divine coming. And therefore established in the unity of all existence, seeing that everything is actually, in essence, the divine. A yogi serves the divine as present in all beings. Such a yogi abides in me, whatever be his mode of life. Externally, he may be a carpenter, or he may be a cook, or he may be an engineer, or he may be in Microsoft, or he may be a Google man, I don't know what. But externally, yes. But internally, if that person has seen the divine in all hearts, is never lost to the divine, because everywhere there is divine. Now here one divine is sitting, and there are so many divines sitting and looking at me. You say, well, I don't know, but I know. So, then where is pain? How? When you gain, I gain. When you lose, I lose. So I feel pain as well as pleasure of others. It's not only confined to me. You get what I'm right? What a life it is, actually, if one can live. I don't know how far, but if possible. Then he says, "Oh Arjuna, in my view, that yogi is the best, who out of a sense of identity with others, being the part of the same self, on account of the perception of the Atman in all, feels their joys and sufferings as his own. Such a yogi I consider to be the most perfect yogi." Now comes Arjuna. Arjuna Uvacha. Arjuna says, all right, all that is fine. But, O slayer of Madhu, owing to the fickleness of mind, I find no way of firmly establishing it in spiritual communion and attain the equanimity which you have suggested. I am fickle-minded. What am I to do? You know, as well, he lets Krishna go. He said, what am I supposed to do? You are saying all this. Your mind, the flame without wind and so on. Yeah. Where is this flame without? I don't find it. It's difficult for me. My mind is very fickle. My mind is fickle, turbulent, powerful and unyielding. That's why I like the Gita, because it's like us talking to somebody. You know. To control it, I think it is as difficult as controlling the wind itself. So what am I supposed to do? Sri Bhagavan Vacha. Krishna says, okay Arjuna. You might have patted him also. Okay. And then he sees that Arjuna is depressed. Because of all this, feels very let down. How can I do it? So he is a great psychiatrist. He peps him up. How does he do that? He addresses him as Asamshaya Mahabaho. Oh, one with mighty arms. Peps him up. Why are you depressed, man? You're the one with mighty arms. So he said, Asamshaya Mahabahu, there is no doubt, O mighty armed one, that the mind is fickle and difficult to be checked. I understand that, there is no doubt about that. But you are a mighty armed one. Yet, O son of Kunti, it can be brought under control by dispassion and practice. Patanjali says in the Yoga Sutra Nairantarya abhyasena, regular practice. There is no other way. It can be brought under control. Then he says, my view is that yoga is difficult of attainment by those whose minds are not controlled. Those whose minds are controlled, it's possible for them to attain if they strive with the proper means, a proper and improper means. Arjuna again says, okay, now wait a minute. Arjuna Vacha. Arjuna says, Krishna, all that is fine. But what is the fate of a man who, though endowed with firm faith, is not established and steadfast in his practices? One day Kriya, next day no. Owing to distractions. And therefore fails to reach spiritual perfection. What happens to such a person? While he has firm faith that I should go, but he is not able to practice, his mind is fickle, one day he does, one day he doesn't, he is not steadfast. What happens to such a person? And now it is Arjuna's term to butter Krishna. So he says to Krishna, he calls him mighty armed one, Mahabahu. Oh mighty armed Lord, bewildered in the path of the Brahman, supportless, does he not lose both this world and the next? Because he is not doing anything here, because he is looking for that. Does he not perish like a rain cloud rent asunder? That I can't do, it's impossible. Trying to do that, I have lost this also. What am I supposed to do? What happens to such a person? Is he neither here nor there? Trishanku Swarga. He has not reached there. Because of the attention given to that, he has lost this. Too much attention. What happens to such? Is there no hope for? He is actually talking about himself. Is there no hope for me? And then he says, Krishna, my doubt in this respect has yet to be cleared completely. And who better can clear it than you? Who else shall I ask? You are the right person. If you don't clear it, who can clear it for me? So I am asking you, clear this doubt. What happens to one who practiced and does not succeed, and therefore since it applied to this, he had lost this? What happens to such a person? Many people have this in their minds. What if I don't succeed? Here I have Sri Bhagavan Vacha. O son of Pritha, Partha, he says, even such a person does not meet with downfall, either in this world or in the next. Know for certain, dear friend, that one who treads the path of virtue never goes to ruin. So what happens? The fallen yogi, the term used is yoga bhrashta. The fallen yogi, after death, goes to the spheres of the righteous, and after having lived there for unnumbered years, is reborn in this world in a pure and prosperous family. Which means you don't have to start with square one. Suppose you gave up at square 3, you can start with 4 next time. That's what he's trying to say. Whatever balance you attracted remains. You might even get a little interest on it. So he says, such a person, after living in peace for some time, for all the good he has done, comes back in a family which is pure and prosperous. Why prosperous? Why can't he come in a poor family? Because coming in a prosperous family means very soon in his youth he figures out how much happiness the dollar can buy. He has everything. But he sees that there is no happiness. Look at the Buddha. He was in the palace, he was a king, a prince. And then he saw it's still miserable. Happiness cannot be brought through money, so he is born in prosperous circumstances, but pure and prosperous, so that he no more in his spiritual path is pulled back by the desire for money. Fully satisfied and moves forward, even in youth. Also, he sees that even though if he has memories of his early sadhana, suppose, and if he is born in a wealthy family, very early in life, at the age of 6, 7, he begins to wonder, what am I doing? What is this happening here? I'm kind of closed in a little cage, like a bird caged. The cage may be made of gold, but a cage is a cage, right? Gold or iron or stone or whatever. So he develops this intense desire to break the cage and fly out. Because those memories keep calling up. Hey, what are you wasting your time? Well, then he has seen life, he has seen wealth, and he knows that's all right. Nothing can come of this much. Okay, that's one situation. The other is, otherwise he is reborn in a family of people full of wisdom and spirituality. That's also possible. Rebirth under such conditions is pressing hard to get in this world. Therefore, O scion of the clan of the Kurus, he will regain the spiritual discernment of his previous birth, and then he will strive harder than ever for perfection. Even if helpless, he will be driven towards the path of yoga by the force of his previous striving. For even a beginner in the path of yoga goes above the stage requiring the aid of rituals. As for the yogi who strives diligently, he is cleansed of all his imperfections and gains spiritual perfection after passing through several embodiments. Finally, he reaches the highest state. Now, don't get discouraged. Simply by practicing half an hour of Kriya every day for 2 years of your life, if you expect to find moksha, let me tell you, it's not so easy. There are no shortcuts. There are no instant techniques on this earth. If somebody is offering that, run away, because you will get nothing out of it. There are no jet plane paths. People say that, but hard work. Nirantariya abhyasena, regular practice. Huh? Yeah, I know that because I need to. Now, what happened yesterday? And I was told in the morning, don't bend down. You can sit straight. You can look at the sky and still there. Huh? Well, I can bend down, but if that makes it clear to you. So, now I won't look at anybody. Yeah? So Krishna says, and finally, after passing through several embodiments, he reaches fulfillment. So, diligently practicing and sticking to your path is very important. Ask me. I have no idea what all troubles, what all situations one has to go through for several years before one comes to some kind of a. The act is very simple. You have to see the divine in yourself, but the distractions are too many so that we can't. So we go through the distractions, we get caught up here, caught up there. Finally we realize the end has come. If you are very serious, you start again. Very often for many birds is forgotten. If you read my second book, The Journey Continues, you see what all troubles one has to go through. But then I said, no, hold on. So don't get discouraged. For all you know, you might be great yogis who have suddenly come here. Who knows? So you can't define. Don't say, I will attain it in this now. And don't say that it will take me many births. Just leave that aside and keep working on it. Because why? Because you are all Mahabahos, mighty arms. So, then he ends this chapter by saying, a yogi, which means one who practices meditation, is superior to a man of austerity. Which means somebody may be living very simply but he is not meditating. Krishna says a meditator is superior to even that person. You can wear a watch, you can wear good clothes, no harm. Okay? But your practice should be on. Your meditative practice should be on. You may give up everything and still not meditate. Then Krishna says this is not a good idea. To meditate, a meditator, a yogi, is superior to a man of austerity. He is also superior to a scholar. You can study all the books on earth, but that doesn't mean that you are a yogi. If you go to a Pandit, he will quote from different scriptures to you, but he is also superior to one who does rituals all the time, says Krishna, not me. I thought don't do anything. My only ritual is Kriya. Or you can call it a ritual if you like. When I built my home, somebody said you have to have a home here. I said it's a home already, I'm living here. So, therefore, O Arjuna, you be a yogi. Of all the yogis, he is the most attuned in spiritual communion, who worships the Supreme in me all the time with abiding faith and with his innermost self fused with the higher self. There ends Om iti Srimad Bhagavad Gita, etc., etc., etc. The 6th chapter of the Gita called the Dhyana Yoga. So, that was a very fast rendering of the 6th chapter. It takes time. But I didn't want to waste your time because you must be eagerly looking forward to various things. So, now it's 11 o'clock. We need a small break and come back again. This yoga is not for him who attends satsangs too long. Or too Take a break.